Hello, ladies and gentlemen, Gabester here. We're going to play some Hearthstone Arena. And in this series, I plan to just talk through basically the play that I'm doing. We'll go through the deck building process, talk about the cards that I'm selecting and why. And I have hundreds and hundreds of games. I'm pretty addicted to this game, to be honest. Right now, about a 74% win rate, so pretty solid. And so hopefully we can both learn some things along the way. And see how we do. We've got Mage, Paladin, Druid here. I don't know. I quite like Paladin. I also like Druid quite a bit. I don't really like Mage all that much, but I think it's probably one of the strongest heroes in arenas. So, we'll go with Paladin.
I will fight with honor.
All right, and if you don't care about the, deck building process, you can skip ahead a bit. Just get to the action. But first up here, we have Knife Juggler, which is one of the best 2-drops. He is a rare, however. But basically, he's 3/2, which you almost always want for your 2-mana minions. And his ability, especially for Paladin, is extremely strong. Every time you summon a minion, which you can do every turn if you want to, you can pop something for 1. Secret Keeper is almost always terrible. You have to use it in constructed decks only, really. Which we're not going to have a lot of secrets, so we don't want that. And Holy Wrath is one of those cards that you see people play a lot, but it's usually bad. And the reason it's bad is because you don't know how much damage you're going to deal. So if you draw something like a Secret Keeper with this card, you spend 5 mana and you deal 1 damage. So you have to not only randomly deal damage, you have to pick the target and say, I hope I do enough damage to that target to do what I want. If I don't do enough damage, I have to do something else. So you have to have a backup plan, which is tough. Anyway, Knife Juggler is clear winner here, so we'll pick him up. Ooh, epic. So second pick here, we have South Sea Captain, which is pretty weak. You're really not going to have pirates in your deck for Arena. Both of these cards are pretty good. So it's really just a matter of taste and the deck that you have so far, which we don't have one. Lay on Hands, obviously 8 heal is a reasonable amount. 8 mana, though, is a lot. But you also draw 3 cards. So this is sort of like the Sprint card from a Rogue, where it's 7 mana for 4 cards, but this has a heal instead of drawing an extra card. Avenging Wrath is a lot of damage. 8 damage, but for 6 mana, and it's split randomly. So usually this is kind of card that you want to play if there's a lot of weak minions on the board, then you can usually take out a number of them. But if the opponent just has a lot of strong stuff, it's not a very good card. So I think we're going to go with Lay on Hands, actually. Alright, Lord of the Arena is a little underpowered. I've talked about this quite a bit, but you always want, generally, I should say, not always, but generally you want effectively 1 more attack or 1 more health than the mana cost of your minion. So for 6 mana, you'd like a 6/7 or a 7/6. So a Boulderfist Ogre is a great example. It's a 6 mana, 6/7 without taunt. So the taunt really is just not worth the 5 health because this thing will die to a lot of weaker creatures. Harvest Golem is really good because of the Death Rattle summon. You can often get 4 damage effectively, and it also technically has 4 health if you add the 2 together. So that's good for a 3 mana. And Argent Protector is really good, one of the better Paladin cards. Because it only has 2 attack and 2 health, it's not really a card you play on 2, but it's a support card. So you would play it, say we play the Knife Juggler on 2, we coin out the Juggler, then we play the Protector to follow it up. Divine Shield our Knife Juggler, who kills the opponent's 2 without dying. So it's really good. So we're going to grab the Protector. Okay. First secret we've seen, Redemption. In my opinion, this is one of the better secrets that a Paladin can get. It basically allows you to bring back one of your minions after it dies with 1 health. 1 health is obviously very low, but in certain cases, especially with Paladin minions that tend to have Divine Shield, that can be really good. So you could use this before you attack with a Scarlet Crusader. She'll come back with her active ability, Divine Shield, and you'll basically get 3 attacks out of her. Stormpike Commando is also a decent card. You basically deal 2 damage, and then you have a 4/2 remaining. So you can think of it like a 6/2, or you can just think of it as 4 attack on one thing and 2 on another. Snapjaw is pretty weak. It just doesn't have enough stats for 4 mana. So I think I need more minions at this point. We'll go with the Commando. Okay, these are all pretty solid. We just talked about the Ogre. He's just a plain old big dude. 6/7 for 6 is pretty good. He will trade pretty well and usually survive. Cleric is one of my favorite cards, probably my favorite common 3-drop minion. She's a 3/3 for 3, which is average, but her battle cry is amazing. So you can often play this effect on a minion that you have, kill the opponent's minion, and yours survives. The Ghoul is okay. He can be really strong, but you have to be able to ensure that when you play him on 3, you are trading your minion for the opponent's. If that's not the case, then the minions won't die and he won't gain attack, and then he's just a 2/3 for 3, which is bad. So we're going to get the Cleric. She's the best. We have Guardian of Kings, which is deceptive. Healing 6 health is a decent amount, and that will save you in many cases. If you're just kind of in a war against the opponent, going back and forth with minions. But for 7 mana, a 5/6 is a really weak minion. On the other hand, because he's against these 2 cards, which aren't stellar, we will pick him. But normally, I would rather have a Boulder Fist Ogre or something like that. So just keep that in mind. Oh, well, talk about these 2 briefly. Murloc Tidehunter is all right. For 2, you get a 3/2 effectively, but because it's split, it's sometimes weaker. The reason it's weaker is as a 2/1, a mage, druid, rogue can do 1 damage to this before it gets to attack the next round, and then you're just left with your 1/1, or vice versa. Loot Hoarder is pretty good. His 2 attack for 2 means that he can often trade with a 3/2 minion, and his Death Rattle obviously means you get card advantage. But Consecrate is the king here. Pretty much in arenas, board clear is the best thing you can have in any situation. So when you have those type of cards available, you should always get them almost. So we're going to get it. Okay. Lord of the Arena suffers from the issue of having too low health. Again, when you want a 6/7 for 6 rather than a 6/5. The taunt doesn't make it in this case. Light's Justice is pretty bad. You almost never want this card. In some ways, a lot of people look at this and say, well, it's 4 damage if you can get all 4 attacks for 1 mana and 1 card. That's really good. But that's not really the case, because you take damage when you attack, right? If you attack a minion that attacks you back, you're going to take a lot of damage for that. So each time you swing, you're going to probably be hit for something. So sometimes you can get a few extra kills, but usually it's not worth it. Ventrico is really good, especially as a paladin or a shaman, because the minion cost can often be negated by the fact you can always summon a minion, a totem, or a 1/1 in our case. So we'll grab him. Here we have a Worgen. Well, actually, Bodyguard, again, the 5/4 for 5. You'd rather have a 5/6 or a 6/5. So a little bit underwhelming. He will die to a 4-drop like a Yeti. So not so great. Or he would die to the Silverhand Knight, leaving the Squire active still. That kind of stuff. The Worgen is pretty good, but without the ability to enrage it ourselves, like a mage or a warrior might be able to do, it's not as great. So we're going to get the Silverhand Knight, who's a really good 5. He's a 6/6 effectively, split between 2 minions. Rare pick here. The Oracle is pretty bad. This would be very specific deck type, like a constructed deck where you're trying to draw the opponents out, get rid of all their cards essentially, and then fatigue them. But in normal cases, this is just a bad card because they draw cards as well. Assassin, even though it's stealthed, and therefore a good finisher, it doesn't have very much health. And the Ancient Mage has a decent amount of health, but its attack is really low. And the spell damage does not often come up for Paladins. We only have right now Consecrate to do damage. So this spell, if we wanted to do a combination to ensure that this thing's spell damage given from its battlecry remains active, we'd have to play it and Consecrate on the same turn, which means turn 8. So that's iffy. So in this case, we'll go for the Assassin. Because it's stealthed, we can at least do 7 damage, almost guaranteed. And if we get some buff cards later, we might be able to increase its survivability. I think we need some more 2-drops, so Loot Hoarder wins out above these two. Sergeant, you can get some good trades with him, but by himself, he's not a great drop. Stormwind Knight is okay. You do 2 damage for 4 mana, and then you're left with a minion that usually has some health down. Probably a 2-2 or 2-3, something like that. But Loot Hoarder is the winner here. We might be able to trade with a 2, and we get, a card out of it. So I'd love to get another Protector, but Consecrate, again, is the name of the game, so we're going to have to grab that. Here we get another 2. So the question is, which do we want? How many battle cries do we have? We might want to return quite a few. 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5. On the other hand, Berserker is really good if you can get him buffed. I still think the 3/2 is the safer play. So we're going to go with the Brewmaster. Legendary. Oh, yeah. So, we'll talk a bit about these. Nosdormu is interesting. That's the best way to put it. He's an 8/8 for 9, which is weak in terms of mana cost for creature power. And of course, his ability means that every turn is only 15 seconds while he's active. So, it's good if you feel like you want to rush your opponent, you would get an advantage there. But for me personally, I feel like I'm more methodical. I like to take more time and think things through a lot. So this would actually hinder me and help my opponent more. Baron Geddon is kind of a card that will dramatically change how the rest of the game is played while he's active because he damages everything. And as a Paladin especially, you probably wouldn't want that because he would kill all your 1/1 guys that you had summoned and all that stuff. Hogger is just really good. He's automatically a 6/6 for 6 the turn you play him because he summons the 2/2 null. And if you can keep him alive, he just spawns these infinite dudes, and they're really, really good. So we're going to pick up Hogger. He's also the first 6-drop, so that fits in nicely. Finally, some buffs. Jeez, I wondered when we get these. So, Blessing of Might or Blessing of Kings. And it's tough to say. The way I like to look at it is the card cost, not so much the actual buff. So Blessing of Might is kind of a card where you want to kill off something much larger and trade 2 cards for it. You're going to basically say, all right, I have this weak, 2-attack minion or something. I want to kill your 6 health or your 5 health dude. I don't have any way to do it, so I Blessing of Might it, and then we trade. The problem with that, of course, is that you lose 2 cards. Whereas Blessing of Kings, usually you can actually gain favor. You get the health as well as the attack. So we're going to get that. It does cost a lot more mana, but it's usually worth it. Corehound, his health is too weak for the 7 mana. Attack is great, but if he just trades down because of 5 health, it's not really any good. Spiteful Smith can be really strong if you have a weapon, but we have none. We're halfway through. Hopefully we'll get some true silvers, but it seems unlikely at this point. The direwolf is usually not great, but as a paladin, we can often buff our 1/1 minions, making them 2/1, which is really good. So we're going to get the wolf here. Bloodcell Raider, again, if we had a weapon, would be really good. We don't. I think Consecrate is going to be the best choice here, even though we have 2 already. As long as we can kill at least 2 minions with a Consecrate every time we do it, that's favorable. That means we get card advantage. So I might not pick Consecrate if there was something else that was a lot better, but these are not a lot better. Alright. The Young Dragonhawk is only really good in like a Hunter Rush deck, or you could do it in a Paladin deck as well, but you'd have to play like, double Blessing of Mights on turn 2 after you played this on turn 1, something like that. So it's not really worth it. Silverback Patriarch is just, the stats are terrible. 1/4 is just not enough attack. And I really like the Frost Elemental. You can often gain back board control, the attack initiative, by freezing their strong minion, playing this guy, and then you attack the next turn without them attacking you. Alrighty. Repentance is usually a bad secret to play. More often than not, the only way it's good is if you are kind of mid to late game, so the likelihood is the opponent will only have a few cards in their strong minions, and you have a lot of 1/1s on the board, so that you can use this card, get their dude to 1 health, and then you trade a 1/1 for it. So you're trading 1 card for 1 card still. But that's the best case scenario. More often than not, the opponent will test for this, play something that they don't really care if it's 1 health, and then you're out of card. So we're going to go with the Berserker. Already talked about the Smith. These are all pretty bad. You don't want the Tide Caller. You're not going to have Murlocs. Talked about the Mage, excuse me. Swordsmith is really good if you can keep him alive, but he's not really a 2-drop in the typical sense. On the other hand, as a Paladin, we'll have more minions in general, so it's more likely that he will be able to buff something while he's active. We can play him mid or late game with 2 extra mana and start buffing our minions. But this is kind of one of those cards is that if you're ahead, it just gets you further ahead, but it doesn't really help you. But the other choices are pretty bad, so we have to go with that. Once again, Dragonhawk's bad, Bodyguard's bad, Swamp Ooze is great. One of the better 2-drops, so we're going to get him. How many 2 minions do we have that we can play onto? 1, 2, 3... maybe the wolf. 4, 5... about 5 or so. So that's alright. Hand of Protection is pretty weak. You're basically saying, I want to give this minion Divine Shield, using a card to do it, so I can get 1 extra attack. So it seems like you're getting an advantage, but more often than not, you're simply just trading a card for a card. You Divine Shield, kill their minion, your minion survives. Card, but it's still a card for a card. It just allows you to maintain the minion you have on the board. However, if you don't have minions on the board that can trade, then this card is just dead weight in your hand, and that's bad. Rifleman is kind of weak. 2/2 for 3 is bad. Obviously, you do 1 more damage, so it's kind of a 3/2, but even that is not great. Sometimes you can get a really good kill with this, but that's uncommon. The Ogre is really good. 6/7 for 6, so we'll get him. And we need another Argent Protector, so we will skip these 2 and grab him. Ooh. Stormwind Champion is exceptionally strong, and especially so with Paladins. Because you have all those little weak minions, you can buff them up. And these other cards are not great anyway, so we'll grab him. Look at our mana card, this is silly. We have like no 3s, I just haven't seen any. We have some pretty good late game though. So it's mostly going to be a matter of relying on our 2s probably, unless we draw a lot of stuff in the last few picks. Anyway, I don't think we can afford another 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, that's plenty. So the tiger is the better of these two. Stealth ensures we do 5 damage almost every time. I think 4 consecrates is too much. Usually, like I said, board clear is king, but if you have 2 in your hand and just nothing else to play, they don't really do much. They just delay the inevitable. Because the opponent will eventually reach mid-game and your consecrate will not be able to kill things. Whereas if you're a mage, you could blizzard to delay them, or you could flame strike to just outright kill them with 4 damage. So I think 3 consecrates is probably the max I would go. Oracle's bad, so we'll get Blessing of Might. I usually don't like it, but it's the best choice there. Here we need a 4-drop. These two are weak anyway. Brewmaster's good. We have a lot of Battlecry stuff. Getting down to the wire. So Raid Leader's normally terrible, but, well, not terrible. He's okay. But again, Shaman Paladins with a lot of minions, the effect is a lot stronger than it normally would be, so we'll grab him. And we're getting down to the wire here. Our 3s are just so weak, but that Tarn Warrior is a really bad card. Usually what happens when you play this is that they get to kill it for free, they don't lose a minion. Because it doesn't have enough attack. It needs 3 attack to really trade against a 3-drop. The other option is to get the Darkscale Healer, which is riskier. But we could always play a 1/1 if we needed to. So I guess we'll do that. And lastly, Divine Favor. It's a deceptive card. It's, well, how to put it? You can imagine a scenario where your opponent just drew tons of cards. Maybe they used Battle Rage, or they're a priest, they have Cleric out, they drew a bunch, whatever it is. And you've got Divine Favor, you can draw a lot. But if the game is fairly even, which is usually the case, or you're just dominating them and you have more cards, or you're just getting favorable trades, then this card is just dead weight. And it would be better to be something else in your hand. It's not even as good as most other draw mechanics because you can't just play it and at least trade it for another card. Usually other draw mechanics, you can at least play it and say, all right, I want a different card in my hand. So usually this is bad. Pint Size is not really a good 2-drop. It's kind of a late game 2-drop. Twilight Drake is great if it doesn't get silenced. So we'll pick that and just hope. So this deck is all right, I think. We're missing a lot of 3s, but we have a lot of 2s and a decent number of 4s. 4s are pretty common for Paladin. We actually got very few of them, to be honest. I would have really liked some True Silvers. I think the True Silver weapon is the difference between an amazing deck and a mediocre deck for Paladin. Basically, any class that has a weapon capability, having a weapon is a way to essentially always have a charged minion out. That's the best way to look at a weapon, because you can attack with it the moment you play it. Whereas minions, you have to wait around before they can clear their exhaustion, essentially. Anyway, so we have a decent number of consecrates, some very good late game minions. So I think our challenge will be kind of getting through the mid game. But if we can do that, I think we'll be okay. Alright, game 1 against a Paladin. So we're going second. We have the coin. It's not a great hand. Don't need the Guardian, don't need the Commando really. I think we'll hang on to these 2. Hopefully we'll draw a different 2-drop, something that actually has 3 attack. Alright, so remember I was talking about Drafting too many consecrates? Well, even with 3, you get 2 of them, and that's bad times. So, I think in this case I'm actually going to coin out the juggler. Because, as a paladin, especially against another paladin, if he wants to play his 1/1 dude, the juggler might threaten it for free. And we know he can't coin out a 3-drop, so almost anything he can play here, we can kill. Ooh, so here we go. So we have the potential... Oh, never mind. I was going to say we have the potential to kill that for free, playing a minion, the wolf probably. But since we drew the protector, now we can guarantee it. If this doesn't hit that, yeah, there we go. So that's why the protector is amazing to play if you have another 2-drop and the protector in your hand, especially if you're going second. So immediately we have pretty strong presence on the board.
What does the future hold?
Okay. So I think just playing the wolf and probably sacrificing the protector into that is our best play. Yeah, doesn't matter that it hit it. It's unfortunate that it did, but we had to play the wolf first because otherwise this wouldn't have had enough attack if the shot had hit the hero instead. I want to make sure our juggler survives because he's a lot more threat. We've already gotten, well, 1 effective damage actually, so it's not that great so far. Don't steal our combos, man. How dare you. So Consecrate is pretty good here. Yeah. And then we just have to sacrifice our wolf into the juggler after the Divine Shield's gone. So that wasn't actually a 2-for-1 for Consecrate, which you're usually looking for. We got 1 minion, which was the Protector. And then we traded our wolf for the juggler. Ah, I forgot about Hammer and Wrath. We didn't get any of those in the draft. Alright, so Venture Co. It's really good unless he has humility. And then we're in trouble. So we will see. On the other hand, we do have a Blessing of Might, so if worst case scenario, we could put it up to a 5/6.
Not on my watch.
Another Divine Shield. Okay. So once again, we could Consecrate here, and that would clear the board. But...
Justice demands retribution.
Yeah. Justice, all that stuff. Yeah, I think that's the play. And again, we're trading 1-for-1, which is not great, but it allows us to keep board control, which is key. And then we can play a 1/1.
Reporting for duty.
So he's got 5 cards.
Demands retribution.
Yes, Justice.
Demands
On and on.
retribution.
Another Hammer of Wrath. So he's lucky he has those, because he would be down to 3 cards if he didn't.
Reporting for duty.
And we would have crazy stuff on the board. Alright, well, no reason to mess around. We'll just trade that. And then with 7 mana, I think we'll just play our Frost Elemental. Well, no, I take that back. No, I don't. I fear Consecrate. He hasn't used one yet. And if we play these weak guys and a 1/1, that's probably what would happen. And then he would... I think he would have advantage at that point. 6 cards, we will have 5, and we draw. That's one on the board, so the cards are pretty even. He just drew another one. We do have lay in hands, though, so that will give us a lot of cards, although we don't even need the health yet. Which is sort of a good situation, I guess. Ooh, Hogger's great draw here. So we'll kill this thing, and that'll just hang out, go up against our Hogger. And then we'll play a 1/1 on top of it.
Reporting for duty.
So Consecrate would still be pretty good here. Especially if he had Blessing of Kings for that thing. True Solar. And what else? Got to be another something else.
Join or die, or both.
All right. Not so bad. There you go. Yeah, I wish we got a Cult Master in our draft. It's so good for a Paladin.
Blood and plunder.
1 mana. Oh, I see. Okay. So, let's see. We have no way to get past this taunt, so we're going to give him another card with the Cult Master, unfortunately. So I think we play the Drake, make it a 4/5. That attacks that. Then he kills it. No, maybe not. And then I think we have to Blessing of Might. Trade 1 card for 1 card into that thing.
Justice demands retribution.
Be quiet. People get very upset if you think at all on your turn, I found. Alright, so that goes there. Blessing of Might, that thing. Here.
I must move quickly.
And then we'll summon 1/1.
Reporting for duty.
I was going to play Raid Leader, but again, Consecrate is still very possible. And we don't really need a Raid Leader because we don't need the damage. Oh shit. I just realized I should have Raid Leadered last turn to buff our 1/1 to 2 attack, and it could have killed the Cult Master without trading the card. So that was a pretty big mistake. Oh well.
Reporting
He's got the combos. This is what I'm talking about. Weapons are king, man. If you don't have a weapon, it's bad times. Okay. So we have to Raid Leader here. And then our Drake kills that. And our 1/1 cannot kill this. At least not yet.
handle it. To battle!
Want to kill his 1/1 so that we crap, we don't have enough mana to return the Hogger and
Mind if I roll knee?
play it again.
Reporting for duty.
I must move quickly.
So we're just going to keep attacking him. And the good news is, with lay on hands available, if we get the opportunity, we can draw and kind of get back some of that lost card advantage that we gained. He's got all these draw abilities that just we have no access to.
My shield for Argus!
Argus, that's ridiculous. 7/4 for 2. Look at that. It's 2 mana. It's insane. Well, it's going to die to our 1/1, so only 1 card still for each of us. I don't see any way to prevent the raid leader from dying here.
To battle!
So that goes into that. Actually, let's attack this into this first to see what we draw. Aha! So, I think that was good, because now we can commando to kill this. No, doesn't matter still. Bummer. Oh.
To battle!
The Darkscale here doesn't heal this enough to actually allow us to kill this thing. So again, we're just going to rely on the taunt that Hogger spawns. But we did save the raid leader by drawing the commando, so that's good. And in spite of his many card draws, he is basically dying here. He's going to have to play some amazing stuff. Consecrate would be good. That would... Nope. Clear out these 2, and then you could kill that with his 3/3.
Not on my watch.
That doesn't matter.
For the crusade!
Neither does that. So there we go. That's the game.
The victory!
Yay! Good game. So we didn't even need lay on hands, which is kind of one of the drawbacks to those type of cards, is it just sits there, and if you're ahead, you can kind of find an opportunity to play it, or you don't really need to put more presence on the board or do something else with your mana. But if it's kind of toe-to-toe the whole time, there's really not an opportunity to do that, because then you just draw cards, but you sacrifice your turn.